Welcome back to another episode of Marvel News Desk, your best place to keep up with all of the latest news, reviews, and speculation concerning the Marvel films and TV shows. We have our usual crew with us today. We've got Adam, and we've got Rhiannon.
Hey guys, you can find me on Twitter as Brooklyn Wallace, and my handle is at Shot of Patron, for no real reason.
I am Caleb A. Borchers, that's where I am on Twitter, at Caleb A. Borchers, and that in real life too. And Borchers is spelled Borchers, if you're looking for that. So we are back to the normal crew, and I'll say at the top of the show, we had a ton of people listen last week. Lots of Infinity War hype, people checking out the back episodes as well, I think, and so all sorts of records going all the way around. So thank you for listening, guys. We really appreciate that, and it's really exciting. So it is good to see that there's such rude health in the world of Marvel film stuff, as is obvious from the box office. So last week, the Avengers Infinity War jumped off to the largest opening weekend of all time, just running right at about $250 million worldwide. This was actually just domestically, that is. Worldwide, the number was like $600 million. They're basically doing $100 million a day on the global box office. It's now burned past $1 billion, the fastest ever. Had another big weekend this weekend, and China has not even come in yet. So at this rate, it looks like that'll be another $200 million just popping right into the bank account. Plus Russia, I believe, is coming still. So yes, people have spent lots of money to see this movie. I don't think we've got a lot to talk about with that, but let me ask this: have you guys seen it more than once, or just the first viewing? What are you at, Adam?
I am at 3. We'll say 3.
Did you sneak into a fourth showing or something?
Sure, you can say
that. That's why I'm like, how could it be an uncertain number?
We mentioned we probably shouldn't have, but I think we might have mentioned last week that Adam's viewings and the box office numbers are not necessarily completely related. So,
Adam.
I know. I mean, 3. That's more than enough. I might go one more time. I wanted that Easter egg I brought up, or not Easter egg, but the post-credits thing. I still need to see that, so I might go one more time just to see the very last line of the movie.
Yeah, it seems like that's a lot of time and effort and money to just get the last line of the movie, you know? So your question is if Fury says Clint, is that right?
Yeah. So that's what I thought I heard. I didn't even pick it up the first 2 times, and then the third time I'm like, maybe I should finally pay attention to this post-credit scene. And then so they talk about the heat signatures in Wakanda being 10 times greater than those in the incident, and then I think they exit the vehicle. Spoiler alert, by the way. They exit the vehicle, and Fury says something like, "Tell Clint to meet us at," and then Hill starts disappearing right at that second. So I want to play. I don't want to. If I was a betting man, I'm pretty sure that's what he said. Tell Clint to meet us at. But I don't know why I didn't hear that the first 2 times. And I haven't found anything online about it. That's why I'm so. So Hawkeye technically was in the movie a little bit, maybe.
No, that does not count as being in the movie. I mean, they referenced him in the beginning of the movie.
Yes.
So, if that counts as being in the movie, he's in the movie. But
a pseudo cameo. What's the step below a cameo? A mention. There you go. 2 mentions.
Yeah, I've been people. I don't know. Every once in a while on Twitter, someone would talk about Hawkeye or Ant-Man, and I'd be like, "You're not seeing in the promotional stuff because he's not in the movie." And people would be like, "No, that's not right." And it's like, to me, this was the most obvious thing in the world. The reason that those guys are not on the poster is because they're not in the movie. And sure enough, they weren't.
It seems like we did get those set photos of Renner relatively early, though, wasn't it? I figured, or maybe it was about Avengers 4 time, but it just seems like those set photos of him have been out forever.
They may have, they maybe filmed something for Infinity War to just like tease him or show him do it in a scene or two, and then decided to just leave it all in the fourth film. How they've moved stuff back and forth. I mean, the same as with Captain Marvel. We heard about 4 times, yeah, she's in this, no, she's not, yes, she is, no, she's not. So I'm sure they were debating whether or not to do a single scene where she showed up or something, and they decided not to, you know. Rhiannon, have you seen it more than once?
No. I've almost seen it a few more times, but I have only seen it once. I'm actually currently on the website seeing like when I could maybe get back to see it again, but it's been a busy 2 weeks.
I mean, it's probably the MCU movie that you should watch more than once. Like, another thing I picked up, I might be going off too much. We're just talking about Infinity War, right?
Yeah. It's fine.
We got news.
We'll talk about it now. We'll talk about it later. Okay. It'll be fine.
The one thing I noticed, I mean, when they go to see the Stonekeeper, how Thanos protects Gamora once he senses the Stonekeeper. He, like, puts the gauntlet over her to protect her. Oh. I just thought that was, I mean, it really goes to his character. Like, he was protecting her from the Stonekeeper. So stuff like that you gotta pay attention to. You can't catch that in one showing.
I would like to again. I was out of town all week, so it was very difficult for me to obviously get it in. But maybe this week we'll do it.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to show shame you two by any means.
No,
just
no, you're
pointing out the little deets.
Oh, that'd be like a very nerdy way to try to shame us. Like, all right,
yeah.
So there's not. I don't have a ton of news this week. Apparently, the Russos, they've been talking to lots of people about lots of things, but the one that got a lot of attention this week was that they considered using the TV characters. They sat down with Marcus and McFeely and talked about that. Obviously, we know that they did not end up in Infinity War. I think 2 weeks ago, Rhiannon mentioned that we had kind of heard a rumor that maybe Daredevil might make it, and in the end, he did not. I guess my question for you is, now that you've seen it, are you glad that they left the TV characters out?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason that they needed to add that complication, and one of my first reactions coming out of the movie was, oh, I am going to hate the fact that the TV shows aren't going to reference this at all. Because I seriously doubt that, you know, the world has been through the snap when we see Luke Cage this summer. But no, I think I'm fine with them not being in it. I was prepared for them to not be in it.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I mean, we know that the Defenders shows or the Netflix shows takes place sometime after the incident. So we really have 6 years of timeline stuff they can cram in. So that's what I was thinking too. I'm like, so how on earth are they going to reference this in the Netflix shows? But they probably don't ever have to, because we don't know how long those events take place. Do we?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's a rough reference to seasons, and I think you could like line up, you know, like the hot of the summer of Daredevil season 2, and then that interacts with Luke Cage season 1 because Turk goes back and forth. So I think you could do a rough timeline, but I don't think it's Phil's 6 years. So,
are you guys reading the comics, by the way? Since you brought up Turk, you know Turk Barrett has an Infinity Stone in the comics.
What?
No.
Yes. I read that yesterday. I couldn't believe it.
Now that's one crossover that I think it could have taken. I mean, that, you know, more than seeing like Daredevil or Jessica Jones or Luke Cage pop up, seeing Turk Barrett pop up in Infinity War, I would have lost my mind.
Yeah, I would like to see him in the collector's room, you know, just like one of those collector pods, and it's just Turk Barrett, you know, like chilling out. Yeah, I'm waiting for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, I guess we'll get to this in our S.H.I.E.L.D. review, but S.H.I.E.L.D. is... Yes, I have. Okay, so that's my thing. Okay, spoiler alerts for S.H.I.E.L.D. if you're using timestamps and stuff. S.H.I.E.L.D. is clearly referencing Thanos, right? And last week, we got the sense that the Wakanda invasion was happening, or close to happening, because there was a mention of it, right? There was the Candyman talked about what's going on in New York. So, I mean, we're about at the time where some Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. should disappear, right? You know, like, if half of there's no way that, like, I guess there is a way, but, you know, it doesn't seem likely that not one of our S.H.I.E.L.D. agents would get clicked off of existence. And so if they go through the whole season of that show and nobody disappears, the snap is not affecting S.H.I.E.L.D. as it should, I would think.
Okay, so we have 3 S.H.I.E.L.D. episodes left, right?
Just 2. 21
Maybe
and 22.
Okay, I mean, and this is getting on to Infinity Ward, like, deep talk, but, so the thing is, the snap, because they are filming another Spider-Man movie, we know that in some way the snap is undone. And it involves Captain Marvel and all that, and I mean, for most likely it involves some sort of time travel for it to be undone, maybe. So what I'm telling myself to get through and I started telling myself this is immediately after the movie ended, because, you know, this is like the one thing I think about is how they're going to connect it all. But I'm just telling myself that they're going to fix it through some sort of time travel that makes everybody on Earth feel as though the snap never happened. They never know that half the people died and then got restored. And we go on living normal lives.
The other thought I had was that it's how they'll defeat Gravitron. You know, like, we'll just get 2 episodes of them totally failing, and then all of a sudden he'll just disappear because Thanos blinked him out of existence. Let's see, other news stuff. This is, I don't know, I guess this is the only other one I'm going to bother with news. Then we can talk about trailers. Ryan Reynolds was interviewed about the possibility of Deadpool and an R-rated Deadpool at Disney, and he said, surprise, the same thing that everyone has said, which is, we don't know yet, we're still working through everything, but we've been told there's no reason to think this can't happen. So, awesome. You know, like, that seemed very, again, this is the story, I think, that's not a story, but it was kind of interesting.
I was about to say, this is just when we plug your MCU conversation or Marvel conversations that need to die.
Yes, that's right. Definitely go over to our YouTube channel, MCU Conversations Need to Die. We also dropped a new video this week, which was top 10 plot twists of the MCU. You should check that one out. But yeah, definitely. The one thing I thought that was really goofy, what was, let me see if I can find it. So, oh yeah, Simon Kinberg. Talk about making crap up. Simon Kinberg said, we haven't had any discussions yet about what the Disney acquisition of Fox would look like for Marvel, because I think legally they're not allowed to talk about it until it's done. And I'm like, legally, who is it? Like, he gave me the impression that Fox executives are legally not allowed to talk. Well, is the FBI, like, bugging your boardroom? You know, like, how are you legally not allowed to talk about your I don't know. Maybe they're talking about Disney's not allowed to make contact with Fox, but I don't think that's...
Because, yeah, Feige said something like that. So the Mondo magazine, like Birth Movies Death, had that special magazine, and Feige said something similar about how the deal's not complete, so they can't talk about the characters. But what's stopping them from, like, writing fan fiction? with the characters. You know, I mean, how can one stop another from thinking of stuff to do with characters? I guess.
Well, and I guess okay, so if Disney technically can't call Fox, Disney did say very explicitly in a investors call that we'll keep the Deadpool movies and we'll keep an R rating. So, you know, like that's still like a wink. You know, like it's almost like when teams get in trouble in sports, where they're like, "Well, we would love to trade for so and so if he was available," and they get hit with a tampering charge because it's like, well, you might as well just have called them if you're going to say that in the media. If you want tons of news, I mean, there are lots of mini bites where somebody on a red carpet somewhere said half a sentence about their character in Infinity War. There's all kinds of little stuff like that, but I don't think we're going to bother with that because we do want to talk about trailers. So let's start with, I had forgotten about this. Cloak and Dagger dropped a trailer on Monday, which seemed to be interesting timing, given that the entire world was talking about Infinity War. Seems like it might have been a clouded landscape. Did you guys see it? What'd you think about it?
I know I watched it, but I don't remember it. I remember watching it, but I don't remember it. Does that make sense? I think we saw a lot more dagger effects, if I recall right.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of showed that, I don't know, in the comics, I just always assumed that they were, that doesn't make any sense, but they're not, like, really corporeal, you know, like that her daggers were more light than they were daggers. Whereas this is, like, her holding, like, what looks like chunks of diamond and, like, scratching stuff, you know, like, it's more like a glowing physical thing than it is a, like, light getting hurled, if that makes any sense. So, yeah, we saw some of that. There was a lot more about the divine pairing and this idea that, like, New Orleans, it was like some kind of interesting, like, weird voodoo spirituality thing. Like, New Orleans has crises every once in a while, and that always a divine pairing is brought out to save them from the crisis, and a new one is coming. But one of the members of the divine pairing always dies, and so that's kind of where they're going with it. I thought that was kind of an interesting thought.
Yeah. We always talk about the need for deaths for stakes, and lo and behold, we're finally getting deaths on Cloak and Dagger. How about they took a page out of the Scott Buck remix book? A little modern House of the Rising Sun remix action.
They did. This is such a... Everybody's doing this, though. You know, like, was it... somebody used like a dark version. I want to say it was Transformers used like the Eurythmics or something like that. And it's not exactly a remix, but then you had like the Johnny Cash Hurt and Logan, you know, like dark, depressing versions of 80s pop songs are the way to cut trailers nowadays, I guess. House of Rising Sun's older than the 80s, but I also, the thing that was making me excited about it was there was a lot of action. Like Cloak and Dagger were actually fighting people, and there was the idea that there was a villain and there was a conflict. As much as I enjoyed Runaways, it did feel like we only had like 3 episodes that actually had any action in it. The rest of it was them like sitting around in a living room or a coffee shop talking about stuff. And so I guess after Runaways, I was excited to see them running and punching and using their powers and like doing superhero-y stuff instead of just like, because that was my biggest worry, is this was going to be a teen melodrama romance that was going to be all, you know, longing and I love yous and all that kind of junk instead of some actual like, you know, action. So
it's a 10 episode season. They're half-hour episodes, right? Or is that supposed to be New Warriors and these are hour long?
My understanding is these are half hours.
That's really short. But we've discussed that before.
We've also discussed how we're impossible to please. You do 13.
Yeah.
13 1-hour episodes with Netflix. We're like, oh, it's so long. And then you get this and it's 10 half hours or whatever. But yeah, I mean, if you think about it, it's like 5 episodes of a Netflix show then.
Plus they're doing I think they're doing a 2-hour premiere, aren't they?
Oh, are they? I didn't see that part.
So I think it's a 2-hour premiere, or it's at least. Yeah, I have to fact check myself real quick, but I'm fairly confident it's a 2-hour premiere.
I feel like we must have something wrong then. They're not going to blow 40% of their show on the first night, right?
No, they're not. I'm sorry. I'm buying Infinity War tickets. You guys keep talking Cloak and Dagger.
You're fine. We're all Googling Cloak and Dagger now.
Yeah, I'm trying to...
I'm not.
Oh, it's a 2-hour premiere. Thursday, June 7th at 8 p.m. Eastern. 2-hour premiere. That's what made me question why if there were half-hour episodes, because that's damn near half a season in one night.
Yeah, you would think so. Maybe they're hour-long. Maybe we got that wrong somewhere along the way. Maybe that's one of the things they changed in the 12 months of production that they went through. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, what's really interesting to me is Wikipedia, which obviously is not the world's best source of information, but Wikipedia only has it has listed 2 episodes with an airing date of June 7th. It has the titles for 4 episodes, but let's see here. Cloak and Dagger, ABC Press. Maybe this will give us more information. Oh, those are just the screeners. This is not helpful. I don't know if any of this is actually going to make it to the podcast, but nonetheless, we'll see how long it is. We'd heard 10 half hours to start with, but I think I'm seeing things here that suggest that maybe we'll have maybe it'll be an hour-long show, which I think would make a lot more sense. So, all right, sounds good. All right, let's talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp. So, we got a poster and a trailer. The poster's got a first view of Michelle Pfeiffer, who looks like Michelle Pfeiffer. So yay. And then we got the trailer. It's kind of the full trailer that gives you a little bit more story and all that kind of stuff. Adam, what'd you like about this trailer?
I love Ghost's visual effects. It's just completely unique. It's not like Vision phasing through Scarlet Witch's wall and Civil War. It's something else. I don't know. It's just kind of weird and unique. So I like that a lot. I like the Goliath reference. So it turns out Goliath was a project they work on, and he wasn't only 21 feet. That doesn't seem like that's too big, but yeah. Those are my takeaways. Nothing really stood out. There was a quick shot that it looked like was an older Ant-Man and Wasp uniform. So I'd guess a flashback of sort to Hank and Janet, but yeah.
So I thought it was interesting. Luis is talking about that Ghost. Tell me if I got this right. It seems like Ghost technology is maybe based on quantum realm stuff that Michael Douglas has developed since the last movie. Is that kind of how you understood that?
Yeah, that's how I was understanding it. So I'm not sure if it was since the last movie. I understood it was like PIM tech somehow. But.
So I'm wondering, do you think that we're going to get Pfeiffer early or late? Like, is it possible that the first scene will be Pym bringing his wife back out of the quantum realm? Or are they going to kind of build up to her slowly?
See, I don't I don't know. I guess I'm not sure how it's all tying in. There's a lot of stuff. We have Ghost, and then we have Walton Goggins' character, however he works in. And then we have the suitcase building thing, whatever that is. So I guess I'm not sure what the main part of it is. Then there's like the Logan-esque mutant hunter henchman type people that are always in car chases. So I guess I have no idea. I think we've gotten like 3 frames of quantum realm type stuff, and that's about it. So I guess I have no idea. I would think that's the main plot line, but I'm not sure how they factor everything else in, I guess. I have no theories, at least.
I enjoyed it. I don't think it's going to make $1 billion. I think it'll be fun, but I didn't have any like huge like thoughts. I mean, we barely even saw Walton Goggins in this, so I can't wait to see more of what his character. Yeah, no, not major thoughts.
I mean, the quantum realm stuff has to have big effect on the rest of the MCU, doesn't it? Like, I think this might cross over more than we think, because there hasn't then been rumors that's kind of where Carol Danvers has been kept, or at least she's using the quantum bands or something in her movie. There's been reports, some reportedly articles out there.
So yeah, I think there's definitely some thought that there'll be a connection there. Also, I saw like this interview with the Infinity War cast where they're asking them like trivia questions about the MCU to see like how much they knew. And when they said, "What is the quantum realm?" nobody knew except Benedict Cumberbatch. And then he knew very explicitly what it was, because apparently they had talked to him quite a bit about it when he was making Doctor Strange. And so that's another really interesting kind of connection point, you know, that like apparently the Doctor Strange people had the quantum realm in their back burner as well. I was really enjoying, I feel like Ant-Man and the Wasp has a chance to have fight choreography that's just unlike anything else. Like I'm constantly surprised at how I'm not getting bored. It's like, oh, you get small and you get big. But like there's so many opportunities where like shrinking down, and then like when she jumps into the car, like it's a small thing. But flying into the car small, going big, punching some guys, going small again, you know, like there's so many ways that action can happen. And then when you see Ghost doing her thing, you know, like in and out of the car, that car chase scene, we're not totally sure what it is, but it looks like it's going to be awesome. You know, there's going to be vans going bigger and smaller, and you're going to have Ant-Man using like a truck bed as like a scooter or whether, you know, like there's just so many inventive things they can do. The Pez dispenser thing, the salt container that like blocked the door. Like, as long as they just keep thinking about it, it's going to have action scenes that aren't like anything else. And I think that's something Marvel's done really well. Like, the Russos really cared about this, that Falcon moved differently than Cap. Because if you had wings, you would fight differently than if you don't. And we saw Doctor Strange, like, he got some more traditional Strange stuff, like making duplicates of himself and the Crimson Bands of Cyttorak and all that kind of stuff. And the idea that Ant-Man has his own style and that there's stuff that Ant-Man can do in a fight that nobody else... It's so inventive. Like, again, I'll dump on DC because I'm just that guy. Like, you watch Justice League and it's like, hey, this guy punches hard. And so does this guy. And this guy punches hard too. And this guy doesn't punch hard enough, so he runs around in a car with bullets. You know, like, I just feel like they're embracing the characters' power sets in a really good way in the MCU, you know?
So, actually, on Ant-Man and the Wasp, they have I'm sure they always have stunt coordinator and fight coordinator. And the fight coordinator for Ant-Man and the Wasp is Chris Brewster from Daredevil. Daredevil's stunt double. So when it gets closer to the movie, we might be able to get him on the podcast to talk about
That would be awesome.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a little busy at the moment filming some stuff, but maybe a little bit closer to when the movie comes out, we can get him to come and talk about how they coordinated some of those incredible fights. Maybe after the movie comes out.
Yeah, I'm assuming his stuff is wrapping here at the end of June too, right?
His stuff is wrapping in 2 to 3 weeks,
go.
hypothetically.
Yeah, hypothetically.
I'm not saying that because he's told me anything. I don't want anybody to think that his stuff is filming on my block tomorrow.
So Rhiannon is going around, going through people's trash, popping up like Oscar the Grouch, you know. Hey guys, what's up?
No, what's funny, I have a house guest in town that's been staying. I mean, in total, he's going to be here for about 3 weeks, visiting from Europe, and he's watched maybe 2 episodes of Daredevil. And I'm like, okay, tomorrow, you need to walk down the street, and you need to look at this, and just take pictures and send them to me while I'm at work.
Is it because you're at work, or is it because they know you by sight now and start chasing you away from set?
It's because I'm at work.
I did, as soon as I saw the trailer, I texted you guys on our Slack chat thing, when they used the whole 90s remix of It Takes Two in that Ant-Man and the Wasp trailer. I'm like, we should just start taking bets right now on what the Captain Marvel, 90s song is going to be, because undoubtedly there will be a pop song from the 90s, probably a female recorded pop song that will be in the middle of that trailer, so...
Can I get with no scrubs?
That'd be good. I don't know why I'm thinking Gloria Estefan, just like a little bit of like Cuban drum parts or whatever, and like it's like her like zooming around and flying and shooting stuff, or like some Top Gun jet action, So, but yeah, so that is Ant-Man and the Wasp. Anything else on that before we go on?
I mean, it is probably the most perfect palette cleanser after Infinity War, right? The only thing that would be better would be like Guardians 3. But since that's not possible at this moment in time, it'll be good to have something actually, comedic following up. I guess something that's not the Winter Soldier.
I mean, if I was trying to follow up Infinity War, I think a storyline where Earth was devoid of heroes and there was something that happened and suddenly they needed new heroes to appear out of nowhere, maybe from the blue side of the moon, to come in and save the planet. That would have been wonderful, but that's just me.
Yeah.
But no, I think you're right. I think it's even better than Guardians because it's going to be Earth-based. Infinity War had so much space and Thanos and all that kind of stuff. I think something that's going to be really situated in a human, earthly thing, I think will make a lot of sense. So I'm excited to see how it'll just be really interesting to me. The marketing will be fascinating. Like, how do you market a movie that will be a much smaller deal than the 2 that came before it? And kind of acknowledge that, but still get people to be interested, so.
Like, we're already braced for, like, the box office failure hot take think pieces, right? Like, we know that's going to happen.
Yeah, I won't name any names, but I'm thinking of a website or two that I'm sure will do was Infinity War the end of box office success for Marvel? All right, let's do our reviews. I didn't get to see Legion this week, so I thought it was really cool the way they did that thing with him and Lenny, and yep. Anyways.
The correct expression was, oh my god, Lenny. I think.
Yeah. You guys can...
Adam, are we close?
You guys can feel free to talk about it.
I didn't catch it either, man.
We are horrible at this.
I'm just so far behind on that. I'm sorry.
We are horrible at this.
Did you see it this week, Rhiannon?
I saw like the first 10 minutes.
Oh, it's really bad because we said we're going to do the... It's interesting. So, totally behind the scenes here. This will be a side conversation. When we, kind of launched off our own, started our own website, one of the things we said we'd do is we'd expand and add the X stuff, including Legion and the X-Men movies. That we wouldn't be MCU only because increasingly everything will be MCU pretty soon. It's really hard for us, though, to get excited about some of these things, I feel like. Like, even something like Legion that's good. What is it? Legion is a better show than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Okay, I'm just going to say it. But I find myself wanting to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. more each week. Do you guys feel that way? Like, what is that about?
Yeah, I don't know. Is it commitment? I don't know. Because, I mean, I'd take Legion over S.H.I.E.L.D., but I don't find it hard to sit down to watch S.H.I.E.L.D., I guess.
In Legion, I think there's not so much moment of suspense on Legion. Like, wherever they left off last week, I don't desperately feel like I need to watch this week and see where it goes and when it's going. Because it's going to, no matter where I'm wanting, no matter what thread I'm wanting to be tied up, it's not going to get tied up this week. They're not going to start wherever last week ended. They're not going to, there's no linear path. By the end of the season, they will wrap everything up. But I think that, like, suspense, like, I must watch this week because I need to know if how Coulson and May get out of this situation, or I need to know how they survive this. Even if they are in a life or death situation in Legion, the next week we're going to go on some tangent about Lenny and the Shadow King. Instead of seeing, how Sid and David get through their whatever. So I don't know. I think that's why I don't have the sense of urgency, is that all the tangents. I'd kind of almost rather binge it all at once so that there's not, like, the long mystery.
I think it's also relatively spoiler-proof. Like, we've talked on this, like, when Adam didn't see it and we talked about it, I'm like, it's not like us talking about it is going to tell you what happened in the episode. Like, I can literally talk all about the episode, and it's not... So much of it is just in the visuals that it's almost spoiler-proof. Now, I think later on in the season, hopefully there'll come a point where there'll be something that's a spoiler. Like, first season, when they revealed that what was going on was actually the Shadow King, that was a spoiler. But Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is the kind of show that I cannot go on the internet Saturday without, like, this week I forgot I was in an airport and it didn't totally spoil it, but there were elements of that episode that got spoiled for me on the internet, and that's a show that I have to watch before I go on Twitter or else I'm going to know what happened in it. So yeah, let's talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. then.
There goes our Legion fan base right out the window.
Well,
Gosh.
Based on the numbers, it's not that big of a fan base. Okay. At least our Legion pod was not our most listened to. Let me put it that way. So yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this week. We are getting more and more tie-ins to Infinity War. We started to talk about that. What did you guys think about our introduction to full-on Gravitron this week?
Heck yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty horrifying. Like, awesome and horrifying.
Yeah. They're almost doing, like, Walking Dead level. I shouldn't even compare it to Walking Dead. But, I mean, they're getting pretty gruesome with the deaths. I mean, he crushed Hale into a ball and we saw blood and guts and type of stuff. Like, what the heck?
Yeah. My wife, I think, is not enjoying this quite as much. She was like, oh, that's disturbing.
It is.
I'm starting to get anxious Like it's one of those where it's very intense. I mean, with us, they I keep finding some comfort that Ming-Na Wen posts on Twitter and stuff saying that she's on hiatus and not that she's on, like I think they very clearly know they're getting another season. Um but I know that they said they filmed this to be like the end of the season, and so I would not be surprised if there were high stakes deaths coming, and we're here, and like Fitz and Simmons are on shaky ground, and Mac and Yo-Yo are outright like unhappy with each other, and Daisy doesn't seem to like anybody, and then we have this mentally unstable guy with all the power in the universe, and I just want a happy place somewhere in this series right now. And Deke comes close, but even poor Deke, like, he just wants some sunshine and ice cream cones, and he's stuck back in the lighthouse. So yeah, he just needs a zoom. What did they bring? They brought a new reference this week. There was a new, like, cheesy pop culture reference this week that they threw in with Deke, and I was like, oh my god, they've moved beyond Zima, but I don't remember what it was.
They brought the lemons up again.
Yeah.
Are you thinking of the lemons?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, she was like,
No,
some
that wasn't
creep
what I was
left a
talking about.
dozen lemons on my bed. Oh. Yeah, when she, the line that I hated was, when she goes, yeah, I was in love with him, and maybe I still am. I was like, you're the only one in the world. Everybody hates Lincoln.
I totally forgot about him, and when she brought him up, I'm like, whoa, he was a character on this show, wasn't he?
Speaking of Lincoln, because my favorite thing to do with this show is to nitpick things that probably aren't fair. They keep talking about making a Quinjet capable of going into space. Didn't they shoot Lincoln and Hive into space on a Quinjet?
But I don't think... I mean, they did, but that wasn't space ready. I mean, I think they just shot that through the atmosphere and just let it carry. I don't think it was meant for space travel. I guess that's my defense.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Like, it went into space, but you couldn't, like, stay up there.
Yeah, it wasn't meant for space travel. I mean, I guess anything could go to space if you throw it hard enough, right?
Right. There's a difference, too, I think, between, like, in real life... something that can orbit, like something that can get up to the stratosphere and kind of orbit around the planet versus something that could, say, travel beyond, Earth's gravitational pull or whatever. So I guess that's what they mean. But that keeps bothering me. Are you liking the Mac and Yo-Yo tension, or is this a little bit over-the-top melodrama? Do you think Mac's being reasonable? I guess that's what I'm thinking. Because honestly, I don't find Mac being very reasonable at all.
I think he is. I mean, she locked him in a jail cell, essentially.
Yeah, I mean... I think on a normal scale, a lot of these people would absolutely hate the person they're around. And these relationships are only the slightest bit plausible at this point because they're kind of all trapped together. Whether they were trapped together in a certain time, or they're trapped together now as a team, or they're trapped together in the lighthouse. I think if this was, if there was a little less forced close quarters, Mac and Yo-Yo, I would be rooting for them to be broken up. Just, like, get over with it. There's other people out there.
See, I guess the thing that's bothering me, do you remember the episode where they showed us Mac and his brother? And his brother was, like, getting recruited by the anti-Inhuman people, the Watchdogs. Do you remember this episode at all?
Vaguely.
And it's the first time he makes a shotgun axe. Like, he duct tapes an axe to a shotgun. Anyways, the point is, the Watchdogs come into his brother's house to try to kill his brother. And what does Mac do? He tapes an axe to a shotgun, and he shoots, and he axes a bunch of people to death. And why does he do it? Because he's an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. And guess what? S.H.I.E.L.D. kills people all the time. And so this sudden moral quandary of, I don't know if I love you anymore, Yo-Yo, because you killed somebody, and I'm special, and I would never kill anybody. And I want someone to make a video of Mac's death count, because I bet you he's killed at least 15 people in the history of this show. And even in this episode, he's getting all over Yo-Yo about killing Ruby. And then what happens the second that May has to stop him from chopping off one of the aliens' heads, right? But those don't count as people because they're not human beings, I guess. I just think it's so hypocritical. On this show, S.H.I.E.L.D. has never had like a Daredevil, like, I don't kill rule. The show, they've always killed people. There are so many times that they've knocked somebody off. And for Mac to suddenly be like, that's not who we are, and you need to look at yourself, Fitz, and decide what kind of man you are. You kill people too. Why are you acting so self-righteous about this? It just doesn't make any sense to me, you know?
I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Doesn't he have icer bullets from his shotgun, though? Everything's icers. I thought we were just supposed to assume that they're not killing people, they're just knocking them out.
Icing them.
Which doesn't make sense because they'll wake back up and continue doing bad things, I guess.
I don't know. It's just, it's a thing that's been bugging me. And maybe I'll go back and he only knocked out the watchdogs. Maybe he didn't technically kill them, but it just seems like a man who's running around with a shotgun axe is kind of a bad person to lecture others on violence. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so let me pose this. Can we talk about the crossover now?
Yeah.
What would you guys prefer? Would you prefer none of them disappearing? Or would you prefer half of them going? Because they've borrowed the Strange FX before, and they got some pretty cool space stuff this year, so one would think they could do the dust effects to a certain agent or two, right?
Well, they would do it to the not original agents. So, Yo-Yo and Mac and Deke would be gone. Coulson and May and Daisy and Fitzsimmons, would they all survive? I mean, or would they possibly poof a Fitzsimmons?
Maybe.
See, I could see Deke going, and then they think that they messed the future up somehow.
Oh
so
my
then
god!
They think one of them die or something, but it's actually the Snappening.
Oh, that would be fabulous. I mean, I like Deke. I don't want him to poof, but Deke poofs, and they think it's because of the future, and that's how I've been referring to it, you guys, is the poof. Deke poofs away, and then, like, Fitz also poofs away.
See, this just brings up all sorts of... So, timeline-wise, I mean, Infinity War only takes place over, like, 2 days, right? Because, like, the whole third act takes place in, like, an afternoon, right? Because it's light out through Wakanda the whole time. And it goes straight from that big battle to Thanos snapping.
I mean, I have questions about why they have to travel the way they do. He gets the Space Stone at the very beginning of the movie. And when he sends the Black Order to go get people, why doesn't he just open a portal and throw them through? You know, like, why do they have to take spaceships to get places? That seemed odd to me.
But, I mean, these past two... I mean, S.H.I.E.L.D. seems like it's almost like real-time timeline, because the past 2 episodes have taken place in one night, right?
Yeah, something like that.
So if Thanos had begun an assault on Earth, I mean, the Wakanda battle's happening as we speak, and then the next 2 episodes are... I mean, they name drop Thanos, so one would think that we'll get some disintegration of one kind, right?
I hope so.
Yeah, I would like to know more about how everybody knows about Thanos. Like, how do the Kree know about him? I mean, we know they do. I mean, there's a Ronin connection and all that stuff. But I think that would be interesting. I don't know. The Intergalactic Council, the Confederation. I don't know how I totally felt about it. I kind of like the idea, but then it seemed like just throwing people in different color makeup. So
one little thing and I don't know why this didn't bother me before, but if Deke is actually the Fitzsimmons grandchild, I mean, obviously, the Destroyer of Worlds, if it was not Daisy, like, they would know. I mean, at this point, we know the Destroyer of Worlds is Gravitron. But, like, they would have known that Daisy was innocent. I mean, like, if all of the world was thinking that it was her, it seems like they would have been like, no, we knew Quake. And even though she's no longer our friend and, you know, she has her issues, she didn't destroy the Earth. And then in 2 generations, it seems like that knowledge would have passed down. So I'm wondering.
Did you watch the trailer for the next episode?
No.
Does
she quake the Earth?
Did you watch it, Adam?
I did not.
There's some lines in the trailer that seem to suggest we're headed for a fake out. That the Gravitron thing has been a red herring and that Daisy really is a problem.
Okay.
So it gives us a reason.
That'll make me happier.
Yeah. It'll give us a reason to continue disliking Director Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did. So this is a little thing. I really enjoyed seeing Yo-Yo and Daisy fighting because it's kind of, you know, we talk about sort of tropes based on gender that certain, you know, like male characters act a certain way or female characters act another. This like hey, I'm in charge. Hey, you know, like that kind of a fight, that kind of like a leadership struggle, get out of my way. I don't get along with you. Fist, you know, let's punch each other in the face because we can't get along. That to me is a very sort of masculine trope. And so seeing the female characters in that situation, particularly then when it's May who comes and breaks it up, I just think that's really interesting. You know, like I very rarely on TV do you see 2 female characters come to blows over the fact they can't get along. And so I just think it's interesting. I think it makes sense for those 2 characters to be that way. And being the 2 powered people, and you can tell like they're doing that fanboy thing where it's like, who would win in a fight between, and you can't, you know, like Yo-Yo's like, I'm too fast for you, and Quake just blows her into a wall, you know, like I had a lot of fun with that scene. I thought it was pretty cool.
That scene did bring up another question. I mean, is there a reason why May's not the acting director? I mean, she's clearly the most qualified outside of Coulson, right? And her maturity level, and I mean, she's the most qualified person out to lead that team, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
It just seems like Cap stepping aside and making Spider-Man the leader of the Avengers instead of like Stark or Falcon or Black Widow,
right?
You know?
Or Black Panther, or somebody who's ruled a country.
Yeah. But instead, they just took the young bravado person and threw him in there.
Yeah, earlier in the season, she had that hurt leg, so there was the idea that she was not at full capacity, but they haven't mentioned that now in 6 months, so...
Yeah, but the director's supposed to be an office job, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So, particularly because May is the one who ends up acting like a director most of the time. Like, she's the one that comes in and is like,
yeah, exactly.
Daisy, knock it off. This is not the way to run these things, you know. All right, well, we'll see. We're getting close to the end here, so I'm excited. Well, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, right? I mean, we should be getting renewal news very soon, I would think. So we'll find out where we're headed with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. All right, our main discussion. We're just going to talk about Infinity War more. So we'll try to remember what we talked about some last week and go into new stuff. Rhiannon, you weren't with us last week, so you go ahead and start us off. Just tell us what you thought of it and all that kind of stuff.
So, I saw it, you know, that very first night before everybody was spoiled. in a Manhattan theater that was obviously sold out and everything. I was shocked. I mean, just skipping straight to the ending, I was shocked. And that's why I love more than anything seeing things early on, because you get that whole audience reaction with you. And everybody, at every moment, like, their raw reactions. You don't have people that have time to be emotionally prepared. And I legitimately thought there was going to be a riot in this theater when they killed T'Challa, or when they poofed T'Challa. When those credits started, there were people that stood up and just started shouting, like, "Oh no, they did not just kill the Black Panther. Oh my God." Like, it was... I was saying it because, like, I always get, like, middle seat, and I started looking, like, how am I going to get out of this theater when people start, like...
burning stuff and throwing crap and...
Like, yeah, if somebody has a gun and just, like, I really seriously, like, was looking for escape plans. And, like, now that I think on it, I'm like, a theater seems like the safest place for a riot, because, like, what are they going to do? Like, start climbing on chairs and get over them? I mean, maybe somebody could be really mad and start, like, ripping up a chair and throwing it around or something.
Literally everything is bolted to the floor.
Yeah, like, there's baffles, keeping people, there's, like, these barriers keeping people from just, like, I don't know. And that's what I was like, please be a post-credit scene, because if they really do that thing where there's no post-credit scene, and we had joked about them just going black and saying the end or something. I was like, if there's no post-credit scene at all, like, I feel my life is in danger. But there was, and maybe 3 people in the theater got it. But, I mean, it was a phenomenal movie. I enjoyed it. I just bought more tickets. The stuff, I mean, because, like, I know I was dreading the Spidey on the side of the spacecraft thing, because I didn't enjoy Spidey on the side of a jet, but I enjoyed Spidey on the side of the spacecraft. Like, they did it okay. I was okay with it. I didn't think Star-Lord was at all out of character when he ruined the little plan. I thought it was a very emotional response for him. I just liked everything. I think it was well done. I've definitely been talking about it with anybody and everybody. I apologize to anybody on the streets of New York that might have gotten spoiled by us leaving the theater.
So let me jump in on that. This is something I meant to talk about last week and never got to. The most nervous I have ever been in my life was not when we had our children. It was not before my wedding. It was walking into that movie. All right, because we went to the movie at a movie theater that's in a mall, and I parked my car, and you guys know, I walked off of the internet. I got so paranoid, I turned Adam and Rhiannon off for like 2 days, right? Like, I was making sure that I'm not getting this spoiled. And we parked the car, and I realize I have to walk through this mall to the theater.
Totally.
And everybody who's seen it is going to be walking out of the theater. And so I'm walking down the hallway, and it's like Daredevil and, like, his radar sense, like, I see a kid with a Hulk shirt on. And I'm like, don't get close to that kid. And then you see other people, like, with, like, Black Panther t-shirt. And I'm like, I can't get near that guy. He's going to talk about it. And a couple times I thought I heard somebody. I kid you not. I stuck my fingers up and I put them in my ears 3 or 4 times. Just walking through the food court, we chose to go to the bathroom at a bathroom as far from the theater as I could to make sure that I didn't catch, like, Infinity War talk while I'm peeing, right? Like, it was so nerve-wracking. I was like, this is going to get ruined. And
I mean, I don't feel what you did was out of line. I mean, because we left the theater and just, like, oh my God, talking about it out loud. And my friend over the weekend or that immediate weekend, I was hanging out with a friend like on Saturday, and we were walking around Boston, and that's why I was on the podcast last week. I was in Boston, and she goes, "Oh my God, I think I just got spoiled for Infinity War." And I was like, oh, I'm sure you didn't. Like, whatever you think you heard probably isn't an actual spoiler. Like, and then I was like, so what did you think you heard? And she was like, there was a small child going, "Oh my God, I can't believe they did it to Spidey too." And I was like,
Oops.
yeah.
That's funny.
So you were reasonable. I mean,
yeah. I did hear somebody in the food court. I heard Thor was so cool, and I was like, okay, that's fine. Thor's now I know what they mean, but like, it was it made me want to. It seems so extreme. It makes me want to now sign up for the first screening, because I can't worry then that I'll get hit by somebody who's coming out of the screening before mine.
I mean, I was joking with folks. I was like, oh, I didn't get, like, I wasn't able to get tickets for the show I wanted. And they were like, well, how long did you have to wait to see it? And I'm like, all the way until 8 o'clock Thursday night. But there was an option for 6 o'clock, and I missed it.
Adam, we had talked a lot about, we never talked about this last week, Peter Dinklage. So we really thought when those pictures first came out that he was going to be Pip the Troll. And it turns out we were very wrong. Did you like what they did with Itri? Did you like just how crazy and weird and out of bounds it was? Like, it seemed very bizarre to me.
Yeah, and that was another time I caught on one of the later viewings. I didn't know Thanos made him dip his hands into the Uru metal or whatever. I thought they were just like he cut off his hands and did mechanical hands, but his hands were dipped in like metal, and I'm like, whoa, okay, that's pretty rough. Yeah, I didn't mind that part. Thor killed it. Thor was one of the best parts to the movie, I thought. Him and Rocket both. But yeah, I didn't. That was weird because there was even shots of Dinklage in an airport, and he had the Pip the Troll haircut on, and that was during filming. So I'm not sure. Is he playing two roles, or did Marvel make him do his hair different to throw it off, or what? Because that was like during filming of Avengers 4. So
wouldn't that be crazy if they just did it to screw with us? Like, as like all the blogs pop up with like, oh, he's Pip the Troll, Feige's like, man, that's the best $30 I ever spent, to like get Dinklage's hair done. Oh. We've talked a lot about if the MCU is accessible for new people. Do you guys feel like this movie is enjoyable if you've not seen a Marvel movie? Or have we finally hit the point at which you're going to have to have invested a few hours into this universe before you see this movie?
There is no way I could imagine going into that movie without ever seeing another MCU movie. I just can't imagine it would be a good watch. I mean, you'd think Peter Quill was stupid. You'd think, I don't know, there's just way too much going on. I mean, It's
made $1 billion in 10 days.
Yeah.
There's gotta be people seeing it I mean, I don't see how it could be making that kind of movie if it was inaccessible to people that have seen all the other films.
I don't know. I mean, do you know anyone that's... Because everyone I've talked to knows what the MCU is. I guess I don't know. I haven't talked to anyone who hadn't seen at least the Avengers or Guardians or something, Because I mean, look at Rocket and Groot. I mean, Rocket and Groot wouldn't make any sense, Rocket's lying about being the captain now, or Rocket saying under his breath, "I have plenty to lose," and none of that character stuff would be there, especially after Rocket and Yondu's talk and Guardians 2, and I don't know, I
don't feel like you would need to have all that backstory to know that Rocket is a sarcastic liar that steals body parts. I mean, you could get to know that from what was in this story. I mean, we all knew Rocket was going to try to take Bucky's arm, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm glad that happened, but that was like the most predictable part of the movie.
I think it was in a Entertainment Weekly
Oh,
thing
was it?
too. Yeah, they mentioned that Bucky had asked for the arm in Entertainment Weekly. So
Okay. You know, I mean, I feel like you don't know, you know, anybody that isn't deeply involved in everything. Yeah, like I feel like most of my theater did not catch that the Red Skull was not just some person there protecting the Soul Stone. But that didn't change all of the emotion in that scene. Um, I don't even see any value of that having been the Red Skull, other than just some little shout out. I, you know, I think there's a lot of stuff that adds value. Maybe it's why you've seen it 3 or 4 times. But for people that are going to go and see a movie once, enjoy it, and leave, I think they did enough to help them feel like they knew what was going on.
But like, so say, I mean, what happens if Infinity War was like the first ever MCU movie? You know, what happens if
it can't be?
No,
I know,
no, it can't be.
Okay, but I just.
But it wouldn't be.
It's just hard for me to see. I guess I don't. I mean, there's way too much stuff going on for that to be your first flick.
I mean, unless you are climbing out of that little Kimmy Schmidt bunker, like totally immune to any pop culture over the past 10 years, even if you haven't seen those movies, you have an idea about Groot, about Spider-Man, about Captain America, about Iron Man. You know there was a battle. You may not know who Thor is or, you know, why he keeps saying he needs his hammer. But you're going to have a idea.
Yeah. I do think we've created a bit of a false dichotomy in the way we've talked about this. I don't think the option is someone who's seen zero MCU or someone who has seen every one of these movies several times, right? Like,
right.
I think there's some in between, and I think there are, for example, I think there are people that saw Black Panther and then saw Infinity War, and those are the 2 Marvel movies they've ever seen, right? And I think that there probably were. I think my thing is I'm not worried so much if it makes sense to someone who hasn't watched the other MCU movies. I just wonder if it resonates. Does that make sense? Like, particularly all the deaths at the end. I think that when you've seen these movies and you know those characters, that resonates. Whereas for this, I would just worry that people would walk away like, well, that was really dumb. All the good guys died. You know, like, that's the part that's off to me. Like, if people left feeling satisfied if they've not seen it, because I think if you're a comic fan, this movie like makes you happy about every one of these things. I wish I knew more. The reality is, I don't know people who've seen zero MCU films, and I don't know tons. Like, I don't. Even my friends that make fun of me for watching Marvel movies went to see Black Panther. So it's just reaching this points of ubiquity now where it's almost a question not worth asking. Well, what would it be like for someone who've never seen a Marvel movie? Is there anybody left who hasn't seen a Marvel movie? Maybe not all of them, but is there somebody left who hasn't seen one of these at some point, even on FX on a Friday night or something? You know, like, it seems like the world has been won.
Okay, but what? So, I mean, what happens if someone's watched both Guardians, you know? I mean, it's hard to give a crap about Spider-Man.
Yeah, but you know who Spider-Man is
Yeah, you know
because
who
you live on
Spider-Man
planet
is.
Earth.
True. Okay, but what about Black Panther's a bad example now. But, okay, Falcon. You know, like, Scarlet Witch.
But you don't really need to know Falcon to get the emotion of the story.
But, like, Spider-Man, I think, is interesting. You know he's a high school student, so you automatically know he's kind of young and inexperienced. You know the relationship with Stark 2 minutes in from the way that Stark and Peter talk to each other. You know the suit. You know that the suit is this new tech upgrade that he's gotten that he's not used to, right? Just by the way he talks. Like, so I just think there's so much stuff. This is what the Russos do really well. I heard somebody else talk about this on a podcast, and they're so right. The thing that the Russos do is they condense everything. The Russos can give you 10 seconds of dialogue and catch you up on so much stuff. And I think that this movie does that really well. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that's really helpful that they can build character with very little dialogue and, not too many scenes. Now, I do think it's possible. You say Falcon. To me, Falcon is cannon fodder in the movie. Because, I mean, there's no character development. He doesn't even speak enough that a new person would know who Falcon is or care. He's just the guy with wings,
And I think there's value in the fact that none of the characters knew each other. I mean, a lot of the characters were introduced to each other in this movie. So with that, they were introducing a lot of them.
But Adam, I agree with you that it's not the optimal way to watch the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like coming in totally blind is probably would not be good.
It was made exactly for comic book fans. I mean, if I had to imagine like a comic book event in a movie, it'd be exactly like Infinity War. Why did Thanos wait so long to do his Infinity Stone quest? Because once he put his mind to it, he got them all lickety split. Why do you wait 6 years or however many years from at least the Avengers? Do we know?
I've heard a good theory, and I have one myself. The theory I heard was that Odin was the biggest obstacle between him and the Infinity Gauntlet, and so he waits till Odin's dead. And the thing I like about that theory is who is the person that comes closest to killing Thanos and stopping him? Thor using the Odin Force. I mean, that's not canon. Nobody's called it Odin Force, but that's just, when he gets all lightning, when he gets all that, to me, that's particularly the way Taika shot that with like flashbacks to seeing Odin right before he died. I take that to be Odin Force, so that's the one I've heard that I like. The other one that I think of personally is at the end, Thanos says that it cost him everything, right? And so I wonder if he was just trying to do it cheaper ways before. Like when he hired the Chitauri dude to work with Loki, and when he's working with Ronan, these are all him trying to get the stones without great personal cost. And he gets to a point where he realizes this is only going to work if I take care of it myself. I can't, farm this out to somebody else. And I think, I don't know, this will sound weird, but I think rich and powerful people do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, even with business deals, I think they send people out to go handle things for them until it can't be done, and then they come in to make the deal themselves. So that's the way I took it.
Are you saying that's how the Marvel Fox deal went down? No one was getting it done, so Feige says, fine, I'll do it myself.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's how the Spider-Man deal went, right? We hear that Feige just finally went to Pascal and said, listen, this is what I want to do. So.
And then she threw a sandwich in his face.
It's true. It's true. Did you have any theories on why Thanos waits, Rhiannon?
No, but I've been wondering it too, because it's just kind of like, oh, okay, today I'm going to do this. I've been putting it off long enough. So the Odin thing makes sense, because it comes right after the end of Ragnarok.
Let me ask you guys this. What do you think when they get poofed, as Rhiannon said, do you think they're gone, or is there any possible that they're all like bouncing around in the Soul Stone? Would that be interesting at all to you, if they were like hanging out in this orange world or whatever?
Now that, I mean, the Russos confirmed that the last scene before the poof was in the Soul Stone. Now that they confirmed that, I would guess. I don't think the people that disintegrated were killed, rather wiped from existence. I would guess they're probably all in the Soul Stone. I don't know. I just like that they're getting very comic booky with doing we've dealt with dimensions and stuff with Doctor Strange though, but now they're trapped in a stone. You know, it's just very comic booky, and they're actually going that far. So
Yeah, the movie that first did that for me was when Ant-Man goes to the quantum realm, right? And he goes tinier and tinier and tinier. And there's just like a little 3-minute montage of like him going through like smaller and smaller realms of existence. And then just like geometric patterns and stuff on the screen. That was the first time I was like, are they doing this in a mainstream Hollywood movie? Like, this is weird and bizarre and like super high concept. And I love it. But like, so I agree. Like that moment, some of the Strangest Mystery Tour stuff, and then Inside the Soul Stone. As soon as they did that, I was like, this is so high concept sci-fi. I love it. I thought it was really cool. Rhiannon, I think we talked. I don't think we did say this. Who was your? Did you guys have a favorite character? I mean, obviously, there's a ton of characters in this. Did you have somebody who just really stuck out as your favorite in this movie?
I mean, this was a Thor movie. You barely have Captain America. He barely showed up. Tony Stark had a good. I mean, he was being Tony Stark. But Thor just killed it. So definitely Thor. Maybe Gamora. She was pretty awesome too.
Those were my top two choices. I had Gamora then Thor, but they were so good. I mean, plus Thanos. I mean, Brolin killed it. I mean, it was a
literally
Thanos movie. Oh, he did kill it. Yeah, he killed it all.
Do you think there's a chance? We talked at Guardians 2. Everybody talked about how all the characters had a great story in Guardians 2. And we said, did Gamora really have a story arc? Do you feel like it's possible that James Gunn held back on Gamora stuff because he knew how much they were going to use her in Infinity War? Like, do you think those are related or not?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think... I mean, because Gamora in the comic books, she's the deadliest woman in the universe, and we haven't really gotten that. I mean, there was a point in Infinity War where Thanos literally called her the fiercest woman in the universe. So that was kind of the comic book nod. But between Guardians 2, I mean, she hasn't really had... We haven't seen that. We haven't seen her be the assassin she was created at, I guess. I mean, in the Guardians movie, they kind of play too heavily on the love interest stuff between her and Quill. So I don't know. I hope she's not dead though. Cause that'd be, after seeing how Saldana killed it in Infinity War, that'd be a bummer.
My favorite was Strange. I just thought Doctor Strange was so good in this movie, and I did not expect him to be such a big role. And I think it's unfair because I think Derrickson had some handcuffs on him, or at least he chose to like the first Doctor Strange movie was about this guy who doesn't know magic and how he comes to know it. But seeing him with like a more full array of powers makes me want to see a Doctor Strange movie so bad. Like I am ready for that sequel. So I had a lot of fun with that. The one thing I thought was interesting, and I didn't even realize it till like 5 days after I watched the movie. The criticism of Age of Ultron was that there was a army of faceless robots in the same way that the time before there was a army of aliens. And it's like, is every Avengers movie just going to be the Avengers versus an alien of an army of disposable warriors? They did it again. They did it for a third time in a third Avengers movie, and they totally got away with it. Like, I watched it and I loved it, and the Outriders were fine, and I never once thought to myself, oh geez, they're doing the same thing that they've done in every one of these movies. Did you guys notice it as you watched it, or did they get away with it for you too?
No, it totally felt... Well, I mean, in my rewatch preparing for this, I only watched Avengers. So I was just like, oh, it's the Chitauri attack again. It's the exact same creatures, right? And so I noticed, but like the stakes made it different.
I don't know, the Outriders really didn't play that big of role, I guess. You know, I mean, it was awesome to watch and stuff, but outside of that, I don't know. I guess I didn't have the same thoughts you did, Caleb. I guess I didn't pay too much attention to that. But now it has me thinking, I mean, look at all the ships that were flying around Sanctuary 2. Why didn't he just send them all? Because I saw some of those Sicarian ships, like that Nebula crashed into Titan. Those were flying around there. And then you had Chitauri torturing Nebula. Why did he decide to choose the space dogs and not the whole thing? And in Avengers, did we see the Chitauri worms that were flying around? Did we see them have lasers? Because in the flashback with Gamora, they were flying over Gamora's plant shooting lasers out of the side. And that seemed new to me.
Yeah, maybe.
So then I got upset about the Avengers because I don't recall the space worms shooting people in New York City. One question. If you could wield one Infinity Stone, what would it be?
I feel like the Time Stone is I don't know. To me, it's the really helpful one because you saw in that movie, you can totally fail, and then you're just like, rewind, do it again, you know?
I like the reality one, though, because you can just make it whatever. Like, you don't fail. Because you can just change how things are.
It is fascinating that the Reality Stone is so different from Thor the Dark World. Like, it was a nondescript power back then, and this movie, it's totally like, I like what they did, it's far better, but it just shows you how not clued in they were during Thor the Dark World about what they were doing.
And apparently Thanos has a strong fascination of bubbles. Because he changed things into bubbles more than once.
This is stupid. I was about to say, do other planets have bubbles? Like, it seems like it might be a very human-specific child thing, you know?
They looked like human bubbles. They weren't like green, like noxious gas bubbles or anything.
Right, yeah, they looked exactly like what a kid plays with, so. Now, I was thinking, talking about the Time Stone. You remember how there's this idea in Doctor Strange that there's always a price? And there's a danger in playing with time, and using the Time Stone is inherently a risky thing to do, and the price comes due eventually. I'd be fascinated to see if that picks up again. Because, you know, Thanos has to use the Time Stone to get the Mind Stone. And if there was some kind of, you know, if that's part of what Strange knew in that simulation, was that I'll give him the Time Stone because he will use it and he will not realize the cost of using it.
Well, I mean, they did pick up a bunch of the little details, like Strange tried throwing Thanos in the mirror dimension. And then when Thanos fought back, like, we saw Strange's astral form for the slightest of second.
Oh, really? That's in the fight scene? I mean, it's so much. I've got to see it again. But there's a time where he tries to throw him in the mirror dimension. That's so cool.
He tries throwing him in the mirror dimension, then Thanos blows it away with the Power Stone, and then the scene where Strange is does his octopus arm things and creates his multiple. Okay. That's when the astral form comes out.
Oh yeah, I did see. Yeah,
it's unique. That. If you paid attention to Thanos, you can tell which stone he's using. It lights up. It's just incredible detail.
I really loved. So I thought we were done, but yeah, I mean, one of the things that I really loved is that they really balanced well the omnipotence versus defeatability thing. Because one of my problems with Thanos in the comics has always been that when you get that much power, your good guys can't win. It can't work. And I loved in this movie, there was a sense that he was kind of using them one at a time. And then there was that sense that he actually has to, like, close his hand, like make a fist in order to use it. And if they could just wrap up his fist, that he lose the use of it. And I just loved the idea that he was actually a villain that I felt like they might be able to defeat if Star-Lord wasn't an idiot. You know, like that was kind of encouraging and interesting to me. Because I think it would have been really boring if he was just totally omnipotent, you know?
So you're an anti-Star-Lord guy? I don't want to get into that argument because that would go on way too long. I'm Team Quill all the way, man.
But he could have brought her back to life. If you let him pull off the Infinity Gauntlet, he could have used the gauntlet to bring her back.
He did what he had to do for them to win.
That's true. And again, I think I said this last week. The Doctor Strange thing is a perfect plot hole proofing. No matter what plot hole you bring up, you're like, well, why did they do this? The response is because that wasn't the simulation that worked. And I think that's brilliant. I think Marcus and Mafili covered their butts with that one. Mailbag time. We have a few things that went back to some previous weeks as well. Last week's podcast on Soundhound, Gurm and Martinez Alonso was talking about Namor and how he'd love to see Namor as a straight-up villain in the MCU, and that would be bringing him in for Fantastic Four would be awesome. And also he was saying that if they use Namor as a villain, that could make it a unique Fantastic Four film, so it didn't start with Doom, and that it also could distance Namor from Aquaman a bit because he'd be a bad guy instead of the good guy. So I thought that was interesting. If we do get MCU Fantastic Four, Doom is a longer play, right? I don't think you relaunch this franchise for the third time with the same villain for 3 times in a row. You feel that way too?
Doom's almost a guy they'll have to build up like Thanos. Maybe not as much, but if they do Fantastic Four and it's just them versing Doom, I think that'll be a waste.
Chris from 2 weeks ago, I didn't get to the comments for our mailbag last week, just said that we should give Daisy some slack, that she's trying to be the best leader she can be, and she's just, she's trying to make S.H.I.E.L.D. a little better place, and she was trying to do the Ruby thing right, and she's annoyed at Yo-Yo. So give her a break. All right, this is from YouTube. Somebody called The Marvel Mystic. Got a question for you guys. You could take one Marvel character to prom. Who would you take to prom?
We would be chaperones, right?
That was my first thought. I ain't taking nobody to prom because that's kind of weird. So
yeah.
But I guess the way it would be asked is if you and the character were both teenagers.
Oh.
We'll put it that way to make ourselves feel less skeeved out by the question.
The teenage character, or if they were like they are now as a teenager?
Go ahead and go with whatever sounds good to you.
Black Widow or Gamora? I don't...
Adam likes his prom dates to be assassins, apparently.
I do, yeah, might as well. I'm just trying to...
I mean, I'm just thinking, depending on where your prom is, you walk in with a green woman, you're gonna get looks, man.
Especially in Northwest Iowa,
yeah.
let me tell you what.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Steve Rogers. Come on, guys.
I figured you were going to choose Danny Rand.
I thought she was going to pick Charlie Cox, so...
I would not turn either of them down. I was just trying to think of the best prom night.
Yeah.
Yeah, like hold the doors open. I don't know.
Yeah, he'd be very polite.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's just a Marvel character, I don't want to say MCU because I hate MCU's... I don't want to think about Inhumans as a TV show, but Medusa is generally my favorite Marvel female character, so I would have to say Medusa. All right. Last thing, Dave was on the website and said was wondering about, and I had not thought about this, if the poofing is counting for the villains as well. Surely it is. Is it possible that Dormammu has been taken out of existence? he mentioned some others like Galactus and other like major entities, but I mean Dormammu, Abomination, Vulture.
I'm more worried about the dogs.
Yeah, where does it end? Because the trees didn't die or go away.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what stops? Are animals not affected by it? Just people?
Are the puppies okay?
Thanos kills puppies.
I mean, I think the one person you mentioned that's safe from there is Dormammu, right? Because he's totally in a separate reality, right? He isn't in their universe, correct?
This is where it's yes, defining terms would be helpful. Did he do it in our universe? Does that include other dimensions? All that kind of stuff. I do think it's interesting. If there is, I talked about last week how I feel like there need to be stakes, that if somebody comes back, they need to be actually like if somebody comes back, there needs to have been a cost to the heroes. And so I do like the idea that what if a future villain is responding to being blinked out of existence? Right? Like the motivation for a Marvel villain down the road is, I had to become this powerful because you guys didn't protect me and I had to go through the hell that was being poofed out of existence, you know? I think that is an interesting road that we could go down, so. All right. I think that does it. That's all of our mailbag. That's all of our stuff. We are, I'm guessing, so Deadpool 2 is in 2 weeks, I think?
Mm-hmm.
But I think next week we'll probably, I purposefully avoided the what's next, what's Avengers 4 going to look like, where are we headed conversation. So we'll probably do that next week as our main convo, and then Deadpool 2 in a couple weeks. Thank you for listening to the podcast. You can interact with us a lot of ways. You can send us a message on Twitter via @MarvelNewsDesk. You can communicate with us on our SoundCloud or MarvelNewsDesk.com posts each week. If you want to support the show, give us $1 a month over at patreon.com/MarvelNewsDesk. You'll get access to our special MCU film ranking episode that's available only to Patreon supporters, as well as early access to a bunch of our videos like the Road to Infinity War Supercut. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel at watch.marvelnewsdesk.com. That would be a big help to us right now. We continue to try to build our subscriber base there. You can help the show be more visible to others if you leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. But the number one thing you do every week is you listen, you tell your friends, and we're so thankful for that. We want to say thanks to Tim Cox for our logo. You can find him on Instagram at TimVCox. And thanks to Alvin for the theme music. You can find him across a variety of social media platforms at the School. All right. I think, I was going to say we are thinking about changing who we host with from SoundCloud to something else. So we are going to try to do that in a way that causes zero problems for you, the listener. And if something goes weird in the next week or two, that's probably what it is. So we're going to try to do that well, but we'll see how it goes. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll talk to you later. Bye.